Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Nicholas, welcome. We did it.
Okay. Everything is fine.
How's the week been for you?
The weekend was perfect today and yesterday, working hard. And just now, as I say, it's 7 p.m. Dinner is done. Pasta with bolognese. I made it Sunday, so I'm ready.
Let's go. That sounds delicious, to be honest. It's early morning for me, and I've my only meal has been coffee. Yeah. So, what are you working on these days?
Okay, the thing is, I will make it quick. 80% working in a company. Here, a small company, tech, we make AI on the edge, doing age estimation without storing any private data. Or we have an application for online safety for kids with the parents when it's not controlling the kids, but nudge a recommendation to the kids. We analyze with AI as well, only on the device, the picture they can store or distribute, the text they are writing. The only things as will jump on other thing is we are doing kind of blockchain-based common work with private ID, X-Polygon ID, when really people can make age estimation, they receive a credential in their wallet, and depending when a website want to ask how old they are, they just relieve in zero knowledge proof, just I'm older than 21 or 18, and that's it. There is no data privacy. But this is 80% business, and the 20 other percent, I can do my own other things, and often it's further in the NFT space with all these people, interacting with all these people from the early historical NFTs from Counterparty Bitcorns.
Of course. Yeah, you've been here for a while, and you've done a lot of great work. I guess that could lead us into me asking you, I mean, what was your introduction to cryptocurrency in general, and how did that lead you to Counterparty?
Okay, basically it was in 2014. I'm a digital product manager project, so I try to follow all the things. But anyhow, for blockchain, for Bitcoin, I was not sure. I could read all the things, but that was typically I say, okay, let's start to do it, because it's when you do it, you have insight, really pragmatic, that helps you to challenge what everybody is saying or what you read and so on. And second is when you do something and you are sometimes as a pioneer, you are in contact with other people doing that in your area, and then you can interact with these people, and then you have good insight. So anyway, I looked at the blockchain, Bitcoin. I understand the things that financial, I will say, yeah, sending money, cryptocurrency money. And okay, I'm not a fan of purely finance and everything. I'm in Switzerland, so about banking, we have our stuff. So the other use case were supply chain tracking of all the logistic of elements, interesting. The third one was energy. We were supposed to have like liberalization of energy, so everybody will produce energy with solar panel on his house and sell it to the neighbor and so on. So a decentralized system to manage the distribution, not the distribution, the payment, access to energy, like a distributed grid could be something good. Didn't realize. But then I noticed that were all business application, what we call B2B. And then I say, okay, does something exist for consumer? And what I found in 2014 was Ascribe. And that was really digitization of media, image, and in direction of art. But then I noticed that were all business application, what we call B2B. And then I say, okay, does something exist for consumer? And what I found in 2014 was Ascribe. And that was really digitization of media, image, and in direction of art. They close in between, but that was interesting. And then further looking for that, I found the people active in blockchain gaming when some of the gaming assets were token on the blockchain. So I crowdfunded in December 2014 Deckbound from Garrett, the friend, and I will say I funded in 2015 Spell of Genesis from Shaban Chameh, that I knew the guy, Shaban, previously for the first game he was doing, Moonga, on a mobile game years before. So that was it, trying to find blockchain-based consumer product service, and then noticing the best are the blockchain gaming, and the first thing was really Spell of Genesis by EverDreamSoft.
So yeah, Scribe is really interesting. I just kind of recently found out about that. Did you ever look into like Mastercoin too? A lot of these earlier interviews with Adam and Tatiana and other people, did you? I just wondered if you saw that too. I know it didn't necessarily work out, or Mastercoin specifically.
No, not the Mastercoin, but these people, we interact with them naturally with the Spell of Genesis, because after crowdfunding it, I joined the company, and we have there was the Tatiana coin on Counterparty. We had one card of Spell of Genesis. For Adam, I suppose you speak for Adam Levine.
Yeah. Well, so tell me how that process went. So you saw Moonga, you saw blockchain gaming, you saw that aspect of it. How did you reach out to EverDreamSoft, and how did you get involved with Spells of Genesis in the beginning?
Okay, as I say, I crowdfunded Spell of Genesis. I'm living, 1 hour from Geneva, where Shaban. I was new in Shaban, so I started to interact with him. At this time, I was consulting with another company, so I started to make some days helping the company making something, and then rapidly we say, okay, I will join as an employee, and so I could join early this adventure. So we had the game just let's say on beta already. The people buying the Bit Crystal. We had the Crystal box, that was a version existing of a Chrome plugin wallet on Counterparty that we make specifically for the Bit Crystal BCI, and then the people can buy the cards. So I joined really at the beginning, when we were in parallel. After they got the money, but for creating the game, creating cards, the early cards for Spell of Genesis as NFT, creating the cards, selling some of these cards, and developing the game. And in parallel, as we speak about Adam, that was as well with Tokenly, if we wanted to sell the cards in package with special price, because we made as well, depending how the people crowdfunded it, they could be like reseller, they can buy with a special price. So we were using that, and it was really based on the Counterparty, but that was the blockchain-based product, especially on Bitcoin, that we estimated in 2016, 75% of top people interacting on Bitcoin were knowing the game. And that was really something special, and there was a lot of interaction. But we have as example, the Satoshi Lite card was really the card for the guy between the Litecoin. And as we create the card with him, he had some cards, and years later, he was on Twitter posting quiz to people, and they say the people that can solve the quiz, they will get one of the Spell of Genesis card, Satoshi Lite. So really, it was not the best application, the best things on Bitcoin, but the coolest one, because it was something different and really on gaming. Everybody loved it.
Yeah, and I think even to this day, Spells of Genesis, we look back at all these cards. I think not only were you guys making cards that incorporated with, businesses and ideas, but you were making, especially Spells of Genesis cards, the first kind of cultural trading card, in my opinion. And even on more than that, you guys had a working game. Like you, and I put it in the documentary. I love this quote. You say, we had a plugin for Chrome before MetaMask, many years before. I just find that such a great quote. I had to leave it in there to make sure people knew in that documentary. And then so there's a bunch of cards in the Spells of Genesis that kind of have the like a partnership or partnership, I guess you could say, with other people, other companies. There's a Tatiana card, etc.
Yeah, there was just how to be. But then we can start prep with the FD card.
Of course, yeah. Let's talk about that. That one's important.
But this one was so there was this FD project. I made it as well, so you can put, let's say, use a part of the CPU of your computer to help making research to solve this health challenge. As you are doing that, there was like elements that prove that you were giving time, energy, or computing power of your elements, and then you will receive some amount of the FD coin, and depending of that, you can get the FD card. So that was the way, always a special way to get the FD card. And as the first card of that for Spell of Genesis, in kind of test, they were playable as well in Moonga. So Moonga was an established game as a mobile app, and you had, I would say, the cards as a normal in-game asset. But then they were starting to have some cards that could play already in Moonga as a test before making the cards completely playable in Spell of Genesis, because we were developing the game in parallel. So this card is really a very historical one, because it was one of the first, I will say, playable in Moonga, and the way you can obtain it was really in the spirit of the community. You know, you have the community on Counterparty, but as well helping a nice project to solve a health challenge.
Yeah, folding coin. I have it on the first pinned up there on the light right on the top, of how that story of people that were using folding coin would receive FT card. And that, I think, folding coin, I think, is underrated in general, and it's also an interesting, well-established project. But then the fact that you guys started this process of, you know, blockchain gaming, and the first time that anyone used a tokenized asset in a game that I know of in my research, at least on Counterparty, and I just find that incredible. I mean, it's just, I think people are going to look back on this and just be like, wow, that's remarkable. But that's, so you're part of that project. You're now working closely with Spells of Genesis. FT card is now playable in Moonga, and people are getting dropped it from folding coin. What did the future look like there? Because it was a couple months after that you guys released Spells of Genesis, maybe almost a year. I think it was in 2016, 2017, that area.
Yeah, I will say we had the community. They can play, let's say, on a version that was not the official version. We had cards coming, but another example I will say that shows the creativity. Anyway, you know, 80% of all I see today, or since years, I say always in the area of NFT or things, I say, yes, we did it with the Counterparty people. So one example is when you make a game, it's important to have a game publisher. So at this time, you know, Shaban had his network in the gaming industry, but every time we try to reach a publisher and we say we make a game, there is blockchain, the people say, ooh, blockchain, ooh, I don't like it, you know, Bitcoin, ooh, there's a bad image for the people, because it was sometimes associated with the dark net, or they did not understand. What we did as well is there was a publisher, they were ready to go with us. But that was as well the concept of the ICO, initial coin offering. By the way, that was the first one in Switzerland, this one. And you say we always ask the community for important things. There were some milestones to be verified. So for the publisher, when we found the publisher, we say, okay, let's present it to the community, and let's see if the community say, yes, that's good to have this publisher. So what we did, we sent a Counterparty token to all the people that crowdfunded Spell of Genesis, and we tell them, okay, now you have this token. It's like a vote token. Send it to the wallet. A means you say it's good to go with this publisher. Send it to the wallet B, and now it's not good to go to this publisher. So, you know, years after, there is the DAO concept or community things. So we did it in a simple manual way, but it was completely open to everybody. So everybody could see that there is a token to make a vote. All the wallet received the token. You could see that this were the wallet that participated to the crowdfunding. And then the people were sending the token to two wallets that were clearly identified as a communication, yes or no. And the majority send it to yes. And then we say, okay, we go with the publisher. So that was another way to really engage the community by EverDreamSoft and have them participated and open. You cannot dispute the vote, everything. So really this concept further for open data, but open collaboration in the community.
That is incredible. I didn't know that as history, that you're using, and it's bit crystals, right? The token that they're sending, and I would assume they only had to send one to vote. So I just find that incredible.
The vote was another one. The bit crystal was the cryptocurrency used for the crowdfunding, used that you can buy and everything to engage. But specifically for the votation, we sent a just one token for every wallet that crowdfunded, and everybody had a voice.
Oh my God, I want to know what that token is, because that voting token for the early, the community to choose whether or not they want to go with the publisher, that's incredible. I wonder what that token is, because that's using voting functionality because of the public side of the blockchain and Counterparty. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Maybe I didn't do my research enough, but that's really interesting. That's you guys were using this tooling and this Counterparty protocol to.
I know it was easy to do. Huh? You create a token, you have the list of wallet that crowdfunding, you send the token, and then you say, now there is 2 new wallet created, clearly identified yes or no, and the people do it. So it was really half in the system, half, I will say, by communication within the community. But the results was clear for everybody, because you just had the blockchain explorer, look at the wallet, and you can see it. By the way, there was something else done, as we discussed that, and perhaps we make a second session. But there is a guy called Mike for the rare Pepe. Huh? He was doing, when there was the final in the US of the, I think for the cricket, no. The famous sport in the US, when you have the final, everybody is looking at it,
Oh, sport, what, like football? Or like, no?
No, the other one with the baseball.
Baseball, yeah.
I believe it was baseball. So there was the baseball final, and there was two teams in the final. And so what he did is he created, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but it's like he created a 500 or let's say 1,000 token with the name of one team and 1,000 token for the name of another team. And then he was selling like this token for both team for, let's say, an amount that could be, I don't know if it's XP, honestly, I can't remember, but let's say 1 XP. And then he was just saying, at the end of the game, I will buy back the token of the people of the team winning for 2 XP, and for the for the team losing 0. So it was just like you have token exact amount for the 2 teams, and they have a value, and at the end, 1 token for 1 team will have double the value and the other one 0. So there was no profit for mine. But what was good is during the match, so before the match, the people can buy the token, and depending if they think the team will win, they will buy it more than the standard price afterwards. But during the game, you could see the value of the 2 teams as well, having evolution depending of the scores. And everything was done without that much publicity, because it's like a betting system. Normally, you should have a license for that. But it was as well something done historically with Counterparty token that allows to bet on a sport event, a sport game, and with the value in real time. Sometimes with bookmaker, you can bet before the game starts, but then you have to stop during. But here, everything the same. The start was done manually, but then afterwards, every transaction was visible and undisputable, and always back in the history. So here again, you have something to research.
Yeah. I think I talked yesterday with Theo Goodman, and he did the Super Bowl Pat and Super Bowl Falcons. So it's the Patriots versus the Falcons, and then he did like a little. He got it into the Rare Pepe wallet where you could kind of buy as the game was going on, one team or the other. I'm wondering if you're thinking of that circumstance, or was another.
It's possible I was thinking Mike, perhaps it was Theo, but yeah. I can't remember exactly. But for sure, you could have it as well in the Rare Pepe.
Yeah, but I think we're thinking about the Super Bowl for American football. But either way, I mean, the fact that, as you said earlier, using this on-chain functionality for voting for Spells of Genesis, and then other people are using this on-chain functionality for betting on like real live games, like sports games. And either way, there was just this aura of experimentation at the time, and I just, I look back and I wonder what that was like, because I was a little late. I came in 2016, 2017, and that's why I'm doing these interviews with you and Adam Levine and all these other people, because I just wasn't there and I want to know more. But yeah, I think that functionality is so historic and incredible. But tell us a little bit about like the early days of Spells of Genesis. You had an artist that you guys worked with, Alejandro Hurtado. And you guys were making a bunch of cards that related to like what was going on culturally at the time. What would that process look like? I mean, there's hundreds of cards that have these, cultural significance to this day.
So I would say first, as I say, Shaban had the experience of Moonga game. So for that, he has his network of designer, creator of the content that he could use in such a game that is card game. So with this style of fantasy and so on. But then for Spell of Genesis, it was clear from him that they will make an allegory of a lot of things going on Bitcoin and I would say blockchain. So the way I will say he was briefing the designer to create the cards was really giving a lot of information of specific event information, people or blockchain or token that will be relevant for the history of Bitcoin and blockchain. And that was really to say, in the future, the cards, the NFT will have a value because it will be a testimony as an allegory of the important elements related to blockchain. And this is why a lot of the cards were doing like this. So I participated later of some, let's say, process. So it was really, there was a brief like normally, and you brief a designer, but there were the elements really, okay, that will be the card, that will be the name, it will represent that, and then we let a little free space for the designer. And some of these cards were done in partnership, and so that was important that the representation was good for on both sides. So we had the partner to look at it and validate it and so on. I was particularly involved in one was the polymath card that was done later. But it was the vision of Shaban. People will be happy to have this testimony at allegory of the important elements related to blockchain. That was the global allegory anyway, so completely fitted with the game Spell of Genesis.
And to this day, Spells of Genesis is still playable, and players get little rewards and cards, and you guys use this. It was pretty kind of like the big thing to use kind of a currency at the time on Counterparty. I know Pepe did Pepe Cash, and then Spells of Genesis did Bitcrystals. Let's Talk Bitcoin had LTB Coin. Tell me a little bit how Bitcrystals fit into that, and what that kind of like, because people were buying and selling with Bitcrystals, and I remember getting in and you could use the Book of Orbs app. I know we're jumping a little forward here, but I love that app. But tell me a little bit how Bitcrystals fit into all of this and what the usage for that token was.
Okay, so basically in a game, you have a soft currency, I will say like peanuts, and you can use this soft currency in the game to buy in-game asset only inside the game. This is soft currency. Then sometimes, depending on the game, like they can make profit and say, okay, you can buy 1,000 peanuts for $10. So this is when you have, and then we call it's hard currency, or you have something else that the peanuts, it's within. So with cryptocurrency, it was clear that the main, I would say, currency inside the game will be the Bitcoins, because it was used for the people making the ICO, because the concept was simple. If the game will have success, there will be a lot of players, a lot of users. These users, they will be happy to buy gaming asset, as example, especially cards that were as a token on the blockchain. So I would say NFTs. We say always at this time the cards or the crypto collectible. And so that was, and if there's a lot of player, the game has success, then the value of the Bitcrystal will go higher to have Bitcrystal, because the scarcity of everything. And so the early backer of the game, the early crowdfunder, they will be rewarded by the success of the game. And that was really the beginning of this concept from Shaban, is we want to reward the players, the fun of the game, the early fun players of the game, because if they crowdfunded and the game has success, and part of the success are for the early player, influencer, and so on, they will be rewarded. And the second aspect is, let's say, to be more giving power back to the players, is the asset they have in the game are real asset as a token on the blockchain, so they have value outside of the game. So the core concept, these two elements, makes that was really, let's make a game when the players get more from the game. They get their asset as NFT, and if they crowdfunded the game and help the game to have success, they will be rewarded.
And that's incredible. And at that time, that was BitCrystals was traded on the centralized. Not only was it accessible on the decentralized counterparty exchange, but it became accessible on the Poloniex and Bittrex, right?
Exactly.
And that's incredible. It was giving. I think it was the first taxation of gaming and giving the individuals some value for not only helping fund the game, but then, I mean, like you said, the individuals could vote on whether or not they wanted to go with certain publishers. There was this entire, the players were so involved. Did you have a lot of players like kind of, go in and be like, hey, I think, the UI should be updated, or I want to have this new feature? Did you have a lot of people involved?
There was hundreds of players, and there was a lot of people telling us how to do to improve it. We can make tests. There are some people, they were saying just make the maps. So we could not do everything in just 1 week, So, but there was one guy that was a fan of the game. Now I think this guy is known. It's Rob Ness. So Rob Ness was the one who said, you need a map. You need a map. In all the games, you need a map. So when we make the map, Rob Ness was happy. But it's true, we had these people, they were giving feedback. The interest aspect is some of these people, they were more, I would say, coming from the blockchain side, and not all were the top, I would say, gaming expert, but we collect all the feedback and we manage it. But that was interesting as well, which is now a lot of people know. But when you make an ICO, you have a lot of crowdfunder or backer or fan of the game, and you have to manage it. So we had an incredible number of channels. I think I made in a presentation, we have more than 10 channels. We were on Slack. We had a blog. We had a website. We have it in English and sometimes in Facebook and Twitter and everything, and sometimes especially in Japanese and Japan and so on. So the community management, we had to manage a lot of, we were on Tumblr as well, a lot of channels for the online presence, but that was the right way to do, to really engage the community, but I would say to respect the community, to get their feedback, to put it in the game.
Of course.
But the game specialists, we had it. Huh?
Yeah, and I mean, it was a worldwide funding operation. So it's the fact that you had like all these other different people from different countries interested. It makes sense to have different languages. But let's talk about Indie Square Wallet and how that fits in, and then eventually Book of Orbs. I mean, so you have this big interest from people in Japan like Koji. And
exactly.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So the Japanese team, so there was Koji that was active for Counterparty brilliantly. Koji was in Indie Square with Utah. Additionally, there was another guy called Mandelduck working.
Oh, Christian Moss. Yeah, Christian Moss. We can get into that, but let's talk Koji for a second.
Okay. So Koji was, I will say, pushing basically for Counterparty with his own stuff. Absolutely, it's top pioneer and one of really the top driver in Japan for Bitcoin, blockchain, and Counterparty. Additionally, he was like representing us in the Japanese market because he was already there and making the things, let's say, active with the Japanese community for Spellogenesis, for the card, for the BitCrystals. And if I think of Indie Square, they have their wallet. That was a Counterparty wallet as an application. We had there was the official Counterparty wallet browser-based from Counterparty. We had our Crystal Box, which was a fork, a version of another blockchain wallet. I think as well Adan had one, but we made it more, let's say, for BitCrystal and to display the media part of the NFT. So Indie Square wallet was there, but I will say the NFT part was not represented completely, to see the token, the image, and all these things. So they started with the Book of Orbs, and then we made it jointly for the design. The design is someone of the family of Mandelduck, the design of Book of Orbs. So we were the first, let's say, collection on it, and it was really the first mobile wallet, blockchain wallet, really dedicated for NFT, because you could see the artwork very nice way. You could see on all the trading order and sell buy. You could see the matched order of the decks. Sometimes there was afterwards the hot cart and everything. And with time, we were adding other collections. So as example, I was the one pushing to say, okay, now let's onboard Bitcorns, let's onboard Mafia Wars. And we had indeed naturally the force of will with the will coin. It was really, Book of Orbs was the top gun, let's say, application, touch point, use for all the collection coming, or Pepe as well, on the Counterparty. And sometimes I miss the functionality of Book of Orbs. This is why, let's say, there is a lot of the functionality we had in Book of Orbs we have now in the last project from EverDreamSoft with Orbital Market. But that was really, everybody had Book of Orbs.
I had Book of Orbs. I think it was the best wallet to ever exist in the NFT community. I mean, I don't see anything that beats it these days. Book of Orbs was just incredible. Just because of the UI, and it sounds like Christian Moss helped a lot with that. That UI in Book of Orbs was, I could check exactly what you just said, price history. I could put up orders, I could put up sells, I could go buy cards, and it wasn't. And you guys were on there's this fee that I'm hearing from you, especially in this interview right now, of just like partnering with everybody that was there at the time. You had cards in Spells of Genesis that was, exemplifying or partnering with, people in the scene. And then the app you guys made, Book of Orbs, started partnering with, Force of Will and Bitcorns and Rare Pepe, and I was in like Bit Girls, right? And just all of these experimentations that were happening. I miss it so much, Nicolas. I want it back so bad. I want Book of Orbs version 2. I can't stress enough. We all think we want it back. We want it back.
Yeah. Okay. Problematic we had is we were banned for the iPhone, for the App Store. And it is very sad because I have some insight, but even now I won't say everything. But the fact is we had a blockchain application, and then suddenly by Apple, they did not really understand it. And they say, oh, they say, okay, you cannot keep the app. So there's always in the process that you have to make a new version to let's say, to improve it. So summary, there were things that difficult to understand for the people on App Store about the Book of Orbs, because you have the cryptocurrency and they are trading, but it was not the trading of cryptocurrency and so on. So we had a problem because I would say the blockchain aspect.
Yeah,
with the cryptocurrency and the NFT.
The regulation was intense at that time. It was, it
was normally blockchain app out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Christian Moss, somehow, I don't want to, and I'm not trying to be mean here, but like weaseled his way into the App Store with Sarutobi, because he said, well, I mean, I can, if the players can't buy Bitcoin, I can at least drop a Bitcoin to them. And then Christian Moss would go on and start incorporating Spells of Genesis cards into Sarutobi itself. So if you held just this incredible environment and community of basically partnering with each other and using each other's assets as like a cross game functionality using Counterparty. This is, I don't get why this isn't like yelled from the mountains as like the most influential thing to happen. I mean, it's just like, I find that incredible. And you guys were, during all this regulation, just still going at it and successful at it. And it sounds like you kind of had to go through different terms and conditions for the, the App Store and the Google Play Store and all that. And, man, tell me a little bit about like when you saw Sarutobi come out with Christian Moss, and tell me about how Christian Moss was involved with Book of Orbs.
Okay, he was working at this time with Indie Square, so he's making the Book of Orbs. In parallel, he has Sarutobi, and then yes, it was a normal step. He said, okay, I will make that some cards, some token for another game are playable. So it was the same token. He made another design. That was incredible. You can play on this one. So that was really a first concept, one asset in several games. But basically, today, everybody can create a game and say, I will make that in this game, these cards are playable. So, but it's true, with Moonga, with Christian, it was the first time. But we were all the same people, There was, Adam in California, Christian, Utah, Koji in Japan, us in Switzerland, and we were just doing things. And that was successful. By the way, if we discuss of this multi-game. You have one asset and you can use it in different games. Even afterwards, Christian made Sao Toby Island, and when that was the same with the card, you can generate element in the game, and you have the design of the card, like creating the characters. We have as well this, I think, very good example that was Mafia Wars, because in Mafia Wars, a lot of elements of other collection could be used, but the little add-on that was done in Mafia Wars is, if you have your card, it could be it could be rare Pepe, it could be naturally force of will, and so on. But especially interesting was with rare Pepe or Bitcorns and or Mafia Wars, as a lot of people can create their own NFT in this collection. They were integrated in the collection with different elements. So for me, I was so happy. My Pepe dance was a sex worker in the Mafia War. But if you can link your wallet with the game Mafia Wars, and then you can prove you were the owner, the issuer of the card, of the token, then you can influence a little the parameters of this card games. So that was a step forward, because normally, a game is done by a company. Sometimes you have different illustrator making the design. Now with Mafia Wars, there were different cards of different collection, but in the case of collection like Rare Pepe, Bitcoins, and Mafia Wars, everybody could submit the card. The people can design a little the game mechanic, the game design globally, by fine-tuning some parameters. So if we speak about co-creation of a game, this is very powerful. And again, it's not a co-creation when the people have to register things. It's just everything is done openly by elements on the blockchain. So I have a wallet. I create a token. This token is part of a collection, Rare Pepe, Bitcoins, Mafia War. Then this token is integrated in the game. By linking my wallet to the game, I can influence the gaming parameter elements of my elements. And so it's a real co-creation done, but everything is based on a lot of counterparty transaction, completely open on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Yeah,
incredible and powerful.
To this day, I find that entire, have the players being able to make cards that go in a collection, Mafia Wars. And tomorrow I'm going to be speaking with Dan Anderson about Bitcoin and the Bitcorns project, and the fact that the community can make a card that like changes the meta or dynamic in parts of the game. I find that incredible. And it sounds like you made a card that was a sex worker in Mafia Wars, because Mafia Wars is kind of like this mob, game where it's like the different mob families and stuff like that.
So depending of the card, they were assigned some characteristics. They could be to killers and so on. But there are different characteristics. But for me, a sex worker is something cool. Huh?
I mean, yeah, it makes sense for the game too. This kind of like mob mentality and this underground, like that's hilarious, and it's super. I think it's underrated. People don't understand. I mean, these days with NFTs, people are buying little pixels or pictures of this or that. But like in history, we look back at Counterparty, Spells of Genesis, and Book of Orbs, and Mafia Wars, Bitcorns. That's just the interoperability of these assets from a community-made standpoint. I find that remarkable. I don't get why. I think it's the most interesting thing in the history. I think it's just like, wow. That's like going on, these games nowadays. If you go on Steam or whatever and you play, I don't know, Counter-Strike, right? And you could make your own skin, and the skin would do something cool in the game. That's like heard of. They don't do that, there's no like community made scenes. But in here, using the blockchain, because it's decentralized and you can see it and prove all these things, immutably, you could do that. And then, I mean, I'm sure you guys had I'm sure they had a curation process, but again, that's just, I just find it remarkable. It's mind blowing to me.
Yeah, curation process, I will say, well, sometimes I was discussing just in Telegram with the guy of Mafia World, and then we were discussing things, and he was saying, oh, I want to add quest, and perhaps some cards, they will be like element moving the people, like using like cars. And then I say, okay, I will make a card for Mafia Wars, and that was the Nielsen. But I say, okay, I will base it like it's an inventor, so someone building a weapon, but using some elements. And I have in parallel my AtOMo collection. So I crafted, just discussing with my ID with the Mafia War guy, and I say, okay, let's do that. There will be the cart, and in the cart there will be like the three elements of AtOMo were displayed when the story was he was influenced by the inventors or the people who discovered these elements. There is the scandium for sure of one of these three, and he used it in the weapon. And then we say, if someone has the card from Mafia Wars, Ted Nilsson as a player in his wallet, and additionally he had the three elements displayed on the card, that will boost the power of the card. So that was as well something that we did, that as a player in Mafia Wars, you have one card from one collection, Mafia Wars case, but if you have other elements for another collection that was anyway integrated in Mafia Wars, the power of the card, Stan Nilsson, would be boosted. That was the kind of things, well, let's say creation, we just discuss it and we say, just do it. And it was done.
That is incredible. I mean, people talk about on-chain meta, but let's talk about in-game meta with on-chain cards. That's incredible, man.
5 years ago. And it is honestly, every time I see things, a lot of things say, yes, we did it. But we did it in a way that was, we talk, perhaps it was not completely 100%, let's say, automatized, but we could make it manually, like the votation, like the thing of betting on sport. But at the end, it was done. And there is the famous Dutchie, pass the Dutchie.
Yeah.
For Joe Louis.
Yeah, and that would eventually, I asked Skrilla about the Dutchie and this idea of a 1 out of 1 NFT being passed to different people that can add Subassets and do fun stuff with it. That eventually would lead into incorporating the fake torch and fake rares. But hey, let's back up a little bit, because I want to talk about some of your early. Not only were you involved with Spells of Genesis, you were in creating cards for Bitcorns and using those cards in Mafia Wars. Let's talk about your Pepes too, because you went into that project and you made some interesting political cards that I find remarkable. I myself made one political card that is I find interesting, but I saw yours and I was like, let's go, let's put. I was excited that you were stamping political history into on the blockchain through this project. You want to talk a little bit about some of those cards?
Yes. So first, I think that was the Pepe. I was involved there, but then, and I saw one interview of Mike that is normal online, and I say, oh my God, that was so good, so important for the community. So I say, okay, I have to do my own. And as you notice, I have a knack. So my mother tongue is French. And even of the first week, because it started in September, in October, I think 1 month or 6 weeks afterwards, I released the cards. But there was already political cards at this period, because that was Trump and Hillary. And so for me, it's a core concept that I have when I create NFTs. I don't want to do something that already exists. And sometimes I want to do something different, like in the Monty Python, and now for something completely different. So for me was, okay, there's a lot of American or Anglo-Saxon people, there are the Japanese, but there's nothing for this great culture, French-based. So I say politically, let's do something for the French, because in parallel, there was as well the election of the president. So I made the Sarkozy, Marine Le Pen, and Montbourg-Arnault. And the history is, the first one I made was for Nico Sarkos. But as it was the first NFT I created on Counterparty, I missed the divisible things, So instead to say it's not divisible, I don't know, I let it divisible. And so for NFT, it was not practical. So, but the first one I wanted to create was Sarkozy, but I miss it. So the second one I created was, in fact, the first one is Marine Le Pen. And then I have to recreate the Sarkozy afterwards. Now let's face the reality. For Marine Le Pen, this is typically what we have in the world. people, in this case family or political party, even if they change the name, they are right, but in fact they try to disguise they are sometimes extreme right. So I made visually something and everything that remind the people that perhaps they are extreme right. For me, that was not only my position, it's just I say, what is the perception of the majority of people? And even in France, the majority in people were knowing that they were flirting with the extreme. For Nicolas Sarkozy, normally you don't mock the physique, the body of someone, even in the media. But the thing is true, the guy is not big. And for one event when he was in Corsica, he was asking because he was not enough high to have a stair or a stab to be there. And in parallel, there was this, he was always sometimes under the scrutiny because he was not doing anything right if he had to be in jail. So there was the joke is like, you know, when you go to the police, they take a picture of you and there was only half the visage. So I take these two and I make the guy jumping that it was high enough.
That's incredible.
That was
so
the second one.
do you think in France at that time during that election, it was just as heated as it was in America? And like, was it, because you know, I didn't live there, I wasn't aware of it. How heated was that election in 2017 there? Was it like, were people calling each other really bad names like there were in America during that time?
Yeah, no, it's not that like this. But what we have in France is this tradition of caricature, of satire, since, you know, the king, the first drawing of the caricature was the king like a fruit and so on. And we have this beautiful comic spirit, like we have Pilot and so on, or, you know, you have this reporting magazine, Le Canard Enchaîné, Charlie Hebdo, Harakiri. This is the tradition that you can say a lot for everybody. And in this case, what I did is standard what we have in this country.
That's cool. I didn't know that cultural influence to it as well.
Now, if you look at the history of satire, caricature and everything, it's very powerful in France. And when you have this comics influence and partially like Charlie Hebdo, Harakiri, and so on, they were always doing things and they were censored and blocked to distribute, right? It's the mind of everybody. It's important to keep it, freedom of speech and the way that you can mock the people and so on. And it's always very important. So I was influenced by that, comics naturally from the beginning, but so that was okay for me to have that. And perhaps we discussed the last one, that is Mambo Arnaud. I say, okay, now let's do something that resonates more for all the people digitally. And that was this guy that, you know, when you have in digital, people, they have no clue. Some like the head of a company say, can you call Google because we want to be on the top one of the result when you type that. And that was this guy that wanted to block Yahoo and Google in France. So that was for the Mongo Arnaud. I made it really that sometimes political people, they have no clue of digital.
Yeah, I'm posting that up top here on the light right up top, and that is, I just love, that's why I made my political card in Pepe, is because I love this idea of like resistant to censorship, because you can't block a Bitcoin transaction and you couldn't block any of this stuff. So I remember seeing your cards and like respecting it so much to take that political satire and this idea of freedom of speech and put it on top of blockchain, and then in a curated cool collection. And it's you know, you have the green face style. I talked about that with Theo a little bit of turning these characters into Pepe like, you know, people and commenting on that. And I think these are going to live for the, you know, foreseeable future, and people are going to look back and go, wow, there was a spot where you could, you know, you didn't have to rely on the media, or, you know, it sounds like political people are trying to block Google and Twitter or whatever. That's ridiculous, right? I mean, and now we have this tool that no one can block it, right? And it's not just a financial tool of money, but now it's a tool for freedom of speech and just this entire liberty to the individual, to the user themselves. I think this entire story and everything about this is underrated, especially at this time.
Yeah, it's time. We have time, you know. You know, at the time, I will say 2018, sometimes the narrative or the first NFT or CryptoKitties, and then the people, because it was Ethereum, and then they were like not noticing even on Ethereum the CryptoPunk. Time shows that the people are coming back to the roots, not only, and this is really my message, it's not only because it's historical, it's old, it's just because as there were people, they were pioneer, they were more creative. So at the end, it's double value. It's part of the history because that was the first things, but it stay more creative.
Absolutely. The artists from that time, I mean, even just with Spells of Genesis, Alejandro Hurtado, and then the artists in Pepe, a lot of these, I mean, we have Everyday Earth right now in the crowd. Everyday Earth, I saw you requested. I think if you want to come up and talk, I want to get through some of these points, and you're welcome to come speak and talk about your experience, because you were there as well, and you were one of the artists there, right? But just these artists, what you can see now, they've just, like, a lot of these people stayed in the space. I mean, look at Robness. You just mentioned that, like, Robness was, interested in Spells of Genesis. He was a big, artist in Rare Pepe as well. And when I actually met you, Nicolas, in Paris, it was incredible. And Robness was at the Contemporary Art Museum right across the street from the NFT factory, and he was showing his work. And so these artists that were around at those times would end up being extremely successful and extremely influential to this day. And some of them, wanted to stay anonymous and didn't get, publicity, but it didn't really matter because their art was still there, exemplified. And I just want to tell a little story about, this is just something that I find incredible. I have this shirt right next to me, and it's a shirt from Bit Crystals. It has Bit Crystals from the Spells of Genesis. We talked about it earlier, but I saw you wearing that in Paris, and we were drinking wine and hanging out with all the Pepe people, and I looked at you and I was like, I want that shirt so bad. And you gave it to me, and I feel so stoked on that, man. You don't understand. To have an original, Bit Crystals shirt to represent this early time. I want to frame it. I just want to put it behind glass and frame it. I think I might wear it I'm going to present some of this research in Miami in a couple days, and I think I'm going to wear it the day I present the research, just to be like, yes, there's these, not only, digital, like physical history with physical art as well. But yeah, I just can't stress how much I enjoyed meeting you there, and showing me the culture, and just being able to break bread and drink wine and hang out. And you have a famous line in I gotta find it, the Pepe Fest.lol, where you say, Vive la République, and then
Vive la République, vive la France, vive les Pepe.
yes. Oh, that's just incredible.
But
I'm finding
normally,
it.
it's always like this. The president of France, when he make an official speech, at the end, since de Gaulle, it's always like this, as I remember. At the end, it's always, I don't know if the sequence is, I think my sequence was contrary, but it's always Vive la France, vive la République. So the official speech of a president of France should end like this. And then I think it's normal that we add at the end, Vive Pepe.
Absolutely. I'm just scrolling through Pepe Fest here. I want to put it up on the little banner up there on Twitter, because I want people to, if they haven't seen this yet, it's just, I was sitting next to you. You said that, and I was so, do you know how stoked I was? I was like, let's go. The crazy thing is, Nicolas, I'm sitting next to you, but then on your right is DJ Qbert, which is like,
absolutely,
that's just incredible. I mean, just to be there at that time, I knew it was a bucket list event. I knew I couldn't miss it, because it was just, I went into debt a little bit to go, and I'm proud of it. I worked my ass off when I came back to pay it off, but I was like, it was like a once in a lifetime event for me. It got me out of America. That was the first time I'd ever seen Europe. And to see Paris, and just go to the art museum, see Robness's piece, I mean, like, some of my pieces were shown, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. But
that was great. But it's really, for me, the community is great. And for me, what was incredible is there. So in Paris, I met the people I saw on January 2018 in New York, when we had this event, and the Homer Pepe was sold online, because I was there with Shaban, and I could see back again Joe, Skrilla, Theo, and so on. Incredible.
Yeah, the community is just, it's unlike any community I've ever been a part of. I've shot photos for local bands. I've been a part of, you know, like skateboarding and street culture and you know, graffiti and art around here. But going, I just can't. I mean, I could ramble about it all day. All my friends already know I loved it so much and everything. But that was just, the Counterparty community is so cool. It's so, you know, there's so much camaraderie and love throughout it, and you can see that on chain, not even just at these events, right, where these people come together and enjoy time together and just talk and get to know each other, but just on chain, like you mentioned before. I mean, these partnerships with other people and other projects, and creating tooling that just doesn't help your company alone, but helps everybody in the space. I mean, there's more evidence of that than anything else that I can see looking through this, of just this. I just think it's underrated. People don't realize, you know, a lot of people go on these, I don't know how much you're in Twitter, but a lot of people go on these spaces and are like, we love our crypto community, but they have no idea what a like actual real life crypto community is. And did you go to that event in 2018 in New York with, you know, the Rare AF conference with, you
Yeah,
did?
that was 2008. The first, I was just in in the first Rare AF conference.
Yeah.
So the one when Skrilla had his image as printed on 2 meters and part of the thing. So it was in January 2018, the first Rare AF, and that was the one when Homer Pepe was sold on auction for something corresponding to 39,000.
Yeah.
So on this one I was.
Oh yeah.
If they made a second one afterwards, I was not.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they did, and if they did, I'm not aware of it. But that first one, I used a little bit of the footage in the TIMELINEXCP documentary of it, with First Skrilla talking as DJ Pepe and a little bit of the auction of the Homer Pepe. That's cool. So that was where you met a lot of those, you know, individuals you had been working with across the world, and then you got to meet them in real life. And I guess I'll just, you know, I think me and you both know we could ramble about a lot of this stuff for a long time, but I want to get on to you kept going and making more cards. You made some Bitcoin cards. You made a fake rare, and you also did some more political cards for Dank Rare as well, a little bit later on.
Yes, exactly. So I was further making the cards, and then I say on which collection I had. Another one is naturally. So when I made my AtOMo collection in June 2018, the collection, but then I say, okay, let's do, because we speak about censorship, Kaleidoscope. So I made even on Kaleidoscope, and it was interesting, but because one of the characteristic of Kaleidoscope from Nathan Sonic,
Yeah,
yeah,
we just talked with him the other day.
There was no, everybody was let's say accepted. So even in my concept with AtOMo, I could make just words. Words are not that powerful, but I try to have something corresponding to the spirit with the fuck you, piece off, and erotic was just to try to make sex, something sexual, not censorship, with words. And the best one is the poo, because it's just reference to the emoji. So yeah, that was really good. And afterwards, yes, I tried to find the right, let's say, collection, and I further make it, and I made the last one, and I'm always working on the next one, but it takes time sometimes.
Yeah, well, let's get into the AtOMo project, because I find that incredibly interesting. No one had ever tried to incorporate tokenized versions of the atomic elements. And I'm going to put up, you have a little contest going right now for a couple of these. I'll put that up top. Tell me about AtOMo and how you came about to, you know, creating that. I remember up at the NFT factory, I asked you about it, and you were just showing me on the computer, like, oh, AtOMo does this and it does that, and you can do this, and you were so excited. I remember that talk really, really clearly now. And when I look,
okay,
yeah.
So I will try. So as I say, 2018, you know, it's already we saw the emergence of copy-paste collection. I'm very sometimes I could be like snobbish or just criticisms, but we saw this concept. Okay, you have like punk and things that was always the portrait. So for me was, let's do something completely different. So first I say there are always cards, so I will make in Counterparty something that is a square. And then I was thinking, what is it that you know, is always on Earth as physical objects? Because the goal of crypto collectibles, NFTs, is you create a digital asset and it will forever, because it's on a blockchain. In our case, when you are on Counterparty Bitcoin, you are on the most resilient blockchain that will stay forever. And so what is the pendant in the physical world? Well, these are objects, materials, and then you have the atoms. And you have this element of the periodic table that is excellent as a representation. And then you think, hey, there is gold there is silver, there is arsenic, powerful element, and so on. And there are some of them, the people want to own it, like gold. But there are as well elements that you can't own it. You can't have your uranium in your cellar, because if you have it, perhaps the wine won't be that good afterwards. So there are some elements, the people, you can't have it because they are not produced or only in few laboratories. And now, thanks to digital asset certified on the blockchain, you can have it, own it. And so I say, I will do this completely. Then a challenge was the design. Because if you make a top design today, it will be normally no more, let's say, up to date in 10, 20, 50 years. So this is why for the design, I prefer to say, I choose a design that is already, let's say, old-fashioned, because it will last better for a long period. That is the goal. The goal of AtOMo, like other NFT collection, they will survive generations and centuries. So for me, as well, if we consider when was possible for everybody to create design digitally, that was I think the 80s with this kind of software like CorelDRAW. And the result of that is today considered as kitsch, not so good. And that was good because the reality, the design produced for AtOMo was done in Microsoft Excel. Normally, you don't use Microsoft Excel to design nice elements. But that was good because if you look at it, I have 118 elements. For all of this, each of these elements, I have 6 images. So I manage these more than 500 images in a kind of generative way, not completely, but I have really an Excel table, and I just input the number of the element, and automatically the design is created with functionalities within Excel. So that was for the design. And then the last part to do was, hey, what is the supply of all these elements? And here as well, we have something new. I think it's the first collection. From the beginning, I said this collection will be half in Bitcoin Counterparty. And the second half, I was writing at this time from 2019, done yet, on another blockchain. So I already had in mind, it will be limited supply. Half of the supply is on Counterparty, the second half in the future, optionally in something else. And then to decide the supply of each of these elements, I looked at the statistics of the presence of the elements on Earth and the presence of the elements globally in the universe. And so I made the limit naturally as a minimum for all the things. So hydrogen, oxygen, you have more hydrogen, oxygen than plutonium and things like that. And this is mapping the real presence of the elements on Earth and average mixed with globally on the universe.
I think that was incredibly intelligent when I found that out, that I was like, okay, well, what are the supplies for these? You know, what supply do you have for lithium or beryllium, right? And you took the math of the not only on Earth, but then this astronomical data of what we see in other galaxies, and the kind of the general consensus of how many elements there are out of elements of what do they call baryonic matter, right? I think is the term, scientific term. And then you did that on the blockchain. You said, okay, well, this one's pretty rare in the universe, so it's going to be pretty rare, and this one's pretty common. It's hydrogen, so it's going to be a little more. Exactly. That's smart. That's incredibly interesting too.
And perhaps the other things that I was doing is, from the beginning, there were JSON with a lot of elements. If we look at the media, as I say, you have normally the 1024 pixel as a GIF, but I publish as well the PNG, the version 512, the one for the counterparty token like the avatar, and the smallest one as well for Slack emoji. Because that was as well the goal. I say, I made the collection, but I will produce content in other area. I made a sticker in Telegram. And something as well that was a premiere worldwide at this time, I was already thinking about the IP, and I said, okay, on the physical world, everybody can use the image of AtOMo. I completely don't care. And for me and even in the digital world, they can use it except to create NFT and sell it as NFT. then depending, I look at it. But this is why I have no problem with IP, because even in the design of the NFT, you have the Creative Commons element clearly identified.
Absolutely. And I guess my question too is that, have you heard of the recent studies on the island of stability for the higher elements? Because usually the ones with a lot of, you know, protons and neutrons, a massive atom, are kind of unstable. And have you heard of this kind of recent idea that there might be an island of stability for certain isotopes of elements up there on the higher end of the periodic table?
No.
Oh my God. So yeah, it's super interesting. So the reason why I bring it up, yeah, you could look it up. It's called the Island of Stability. And we think it's possible through a couple different manners of these higher elements being pretty stable in the universe, and they don't just decay, you know, within hundreds of nanoseconds or whatever they decay at. And I researching that recently, I was like, oh man, I wonder if Nicolas Sierro is going to start maybe making some of these newer elements that we might see in the future.
If there are new elements, I will add it.
Sweet. Okay, cool. Yeah, you would love that.
Naturally. Yeah, naturally, that's cool. And as well for the design, you know, basically, you know, the elements that are difficult to create and so on, I put explicitly the design with the colors that they are not nice to see, because it's not like, you know, they are not completely easy to have.
Yeah, stuff like
so the ones that are pink and violet, the contrast with the colors is not a good one in design. In static design, you know, there are some colors you cannot put side by side. But on my things, I say, let's do like this, because these elements, some of them we don't have that much information, so they are not completely real, like gold and so on. Or when I say real, we understand ourselves. So I try to present that in the design as well.
Do you ever
but I'm ready to add new ones.
Do you ever think there'd be a future where you can maybe combine, let's say you have, I don't know, hydrogen, helium, and then you can combine them into bigger molecules, and you could do that on, you know, in a blockchain way, you know, like more complex molecules?
For me, that should be a game.
Yeah.
The idea for molecules, so for me, that would be more like this. The elements are here. The possibility to assemble all elements are too big. For me, if I made the declination that was just using the wording or using the colors as pixel, you know, things like that, or sometimes, but the concept of molecule and everything, for me, that could be another application that can use the elements to allow to mint. If you own the C and the H of AtOMo, that in a game you should be able to create molecule. If someone wants to do something when the molecules that are created are other NFT, just contact me. I'm always happy. I have enough to do for that. But for me, that should be part of something more a game that can create the molecules.
Yeah, I think there's endless, literally, probably almost infinite possibilities you could do with some of that. But if there's anything else, that's everything I've kind of planned to talk about. I mean, just to let everyone know, we glossed over Nicolas's history. I mean, just if we're condensing it down into an hour and a half, and every single thing he's mentioned, whether it be Spells of Genesis or Pepe, Book of Orbs, it can just, the research goes way deeper, and you can expand on any single one of these things we talk about. But I'm interested to know what your views on blockchain and tokenization are now after all these years have passed. And then I was thinking of getting Everyday Earth up here, because he might have a question or something to talk about on from his perspective of things. He was there a little bit earlier than I was. Maybe we get a little bit more history incorporated into it.
Okay, so I will. For me, you know, in Spell of Genesis by EverDreamSoft, we had pressure sometimes to go to other blockchain things. For me, it's clear. I stayed in Counterparty because for me, Counterparty has the characteristic of Bitcoin. It's simple and robust, and it will last forever. And this is what we want to have for NFT. So for me, it's correct to be there. And now, if you say that we have Everyday on Earth, I will say, well, a great artist, a really great artist. And why? Because if you go to blockchainizator.com and you go to my blog, if you look at the two last posts I made, I was trying to look at the first NFTs that was related to derivatives that have the first elements of other NFT or card game and so on. And he has two on it. So Great.
Yeah, I saw that list made, and you sent it to me, and you're like, I think you'd be interested in this because you're researching it. And I read over it, and I was like, wow, you did some work there that you did your own digging and then shared your research with me, and I take that as a resource. I think I have a lot of work to add some stuff to the counterparty timeline, and that's going to be on the list for sure. But Everyday Earth, let's hear. You've been here for a while. You've been waiting, and let's hear your experience here with Spells of Genesis and some of the art that Nicolas just mentioned.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave. And first of all, I wanted to say big hello to Nicolas. Really fascinating to hear you talk through those early days and your journey through it. Just fascinating. It really brings back a bunch of memories. And first thing I was gonna throw back to was I played Moonga. I was obsessed with Moonga back in the early days, and it had a really active community of its own. There was a really active chat. Like in the game, there was a message board, and you could get roasted in the chat. Right, you would play a game against somebody and then drop in there. If you beat one of the best players, you could join, and it was really fun. And they had a marketplace. Now it used what you mentioned, Nicolas, the kind of soft currency. Right, it had an in-game currency, but you could try and get like Sadi card was a really good one that I remember. But it was really cool, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on those early days of Moonga. EverDreamSoft was so far ahead of the curve. You could order a physical deck of Moonga cards, and I'm really proud to say I've got a deck of these cards. Each one of the cards has an NFC chip built into it, and you can scan that card and it gives you the details. I mean, they were, thinking about physical, digital, phygital, whatever you call it, way before I think anybody else. So that was what I wanted to jump up and say hi, but also throw it back to how innovative EverDreamSoft and yourself and Shaban and the team were, even back then in like 2013 or even earlier, perhaps.
Yeah, that was great. Indeed, the NFC card for Moonga was something really incredible for this time. The card, I could see the cards. I perhaps have some. I can't remember it, but it's true. Shaban was really always open for novelties and trying things, and that's part of his story. It's just we just tried to stay on the blockchain, and there was other things that he was doing. IDO. There are a lot of things, but it's true. This Moonga was a game that was a huge success in Japan, and normally when the type of design you have on Moonga, that should be more for the occidental people. But I was as well with Shaban in Japan, and I could see in the gaming space the respect he had there, because let's face the reality, his game, the card game that he made, Moonga on mobile app, was as well one of the first in the world that had success, and there were others after them make a copy of it with more power, money marketing on it, but it was really ahead of time, a lot of time. And I'm happy you bring back this element of the NFC card.
Yeah, and it reminded me also, I went back, I found one of your, I dug back through your Twitter history of, there's like a 2013 post that was about Moonga, and you invested in the Kickstarter, right? There was a Kickstarter to try and take it more digital and kind of get into the crypto side of things. And I think that's where, that kind of failed to raise the Kickstarter round. But then I think that's where Shaban maybe thought of the Bit Crystals, right? And that was one of those investors where you bought a Bit Crystals package. And looking back now, I mean, I think it was some ridiculous, it was like 1 BTC, right, to become a gold level investor, and you got so many Bit Crystals back. But thinking about, and some of that hurts, right, to think that you spent that much money, that much Bitcoin, but thinking back into how much it expanded my view of early NFTs and the kind of the value and the joy that it's brought since then. And honestly, if I'd held on to some of those cards, I'd be doing just fine, right? But I didn't. I had a Satoshi card, I had an FD card, and they're gone. But it's just incredible to think that he was thinking about crowdfunding, and Bit Crystals was a big part of that.
Yeah, that's really an example of pioneering things. But it's good that you talk about the Moonga and the thing, there were cards and there was a marketplace, because that was as well the thing. There were people, they were selling the Moonga card inside the game, but there were some they were selling outside the game in eBay. And some users, it was a scam on eBay. So they called EverDreamSoft and say, look, I bought this Moonga cart in eBay and I didn't receive it because it was done outside. It was like the people were making a price higher in eBay, and then between the seller and the buyer, they were selling it for a ridiculous price in Moonga. And so the solution of Shaban was, there is no more problem between the players when there are scam and so things. They can sell outside of the game. We agree for that.
Wow, a lot of good early insight here. I wasn't there for Moonga, and man, thanks Everyday Earth for touching on that. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on? We've been going for about an hour and a half, and I'll stay here for as long as if you want to mention for other things, because I'm just incredibly interested in all the history, and to have people here that were there. And every interview I do here, I learn something new. Especially Nicolas, you're talking about the what was it, the Crystal Box wallet. I don't have that on the timeline yet. I don't also have Tokenized wallet on the timeline yet. There's a lot of stuff that there's just, the more research I do, the more I uncover. There's just always more to be looked at, and I might ask you in the DMs about a little more details on that, and I could put it on the timeline as well. But yeah, if there's anything else you guys want to talk about or that's related to, you know, Nicolas and his Genesis, feel free.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what I can send you now is the bit crystal box. That was the phase out. When we phase out it, I was responsible for that, which was not an easy task because there were people, they did not write down their seed phrase. They just have the wallet, the bit crystal box always open always active in the browser. But there were other people. I can remember the first interview I made with kind of journalist podcaster. I send him some cards that he can test, and then he say, "Oh, I make an update of my computer, and I lost I never write down the things and so on." So I will just now in the DM of X send you the link to the phase out article post of the bit crystal box. So then you have some information on it, and then I can always try to find all the screenshot of the Spell of Genesis period because we had presentation when we have it.
Oh, absolutely. Anything you can send my way is appreciated.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I sent here without, just send it here.
Well, beautiful. This is near the end of the talk here. I do a little shill of my project. These interviews help it so much, but I did a fake rare collectible. It's a token, but even though it's tokens, it's also publishing this research I've been doing into early counterparty history. And on the TIMELINEXCP token itself, you can just freely go and browse an interactive infographic of the first 10 years of counterparty history. And then I did a little found footage documentary of the first 5 years of counterparty history. And again, even though it's 18 minutes long, I'm just barely touching on all this history that we can, you know, just in this talk, expanding just slightly. They can go on for hours. So I don't think that counterparty is really exemplified or talked about as much as I want it to be. And so I did this project, TIMELINEXCP. I put all of the research in the token, put the documentary into it, and then I got it accept a curated art collection called Fake Rares. And right now the scarcity distribution is going on right now. It's the only place that you can get the physicals associated with it. I did an edition physicals, a 1/1 version 1 big 40-inch by 24-inch canvas. There's also these limited edition mouse pads. We got coffee cups, and then a cool little calendar to go and learn about a token month, and as well as some art, some in-print art by Le Hughes, who I also met in Pepe Fest in Paris. And so you got some, you know, top 2 collectors that get a signed version of that piece called Nobody Not Really, and then the top 50, which we haven't even reached yet. So if you get one now, you instantly will get a print from Le Hughes. And it's going pretty well. I'm really just excited and just so stoked that people are interested in that. And the only way to get the physicals is if you are the top buyer. So right now we have the top buyer at 12 total that they ordered. It's on the scarcity link up there. I have it in that on the light bright up there, and then a couple other people have 2 they bought 2, and then a bunch of other people bought 1. So if you're interested in getting, you know, this kind of limited edition physical phygital, as you can say, because there's a Subasset token associated with them too, it's not too much. But anyway, it's just a way that you know, again, the research is all public. You know, right now recording the space, it's all public. We learn together. I'm not claiming to know everything, but I'm claiming to say, hey, this is the most comprehensive timeline so far, and I can't wait to make it better. And getting the token on Scarcity or buying TIMELINEXCP token directly just supports me. I put a lot of love, blood, sweat, tears, coffee, and cigarettes into this project, and I basically I needed to try to raise some funds to get me to, you know, a flight and stay at the Counterparty event, which is being hosted by Tatiana Moroz, and I'm going to be out there presenting all of this data to a bunch of other just incredibly intelligent people that are going, and I'm really excited. There's going to be some friends there, Power Hodl from Dank Rare, and G Money, and a couple other people are going to be showing up. So anyway, that's just my time here to shill my token, which you don't need to buy it if you want to know all the gold gems of history in it, but if you do, it just directly helps me. I can't stress enough how much it helps now. So yeah, so that's my little shill on that side of things. But we can end it kind of near here if you want. If any closing words, Nicholas, on your thoughts.
And the closing words is thank you, Dave.
Hey, Dave, I wanted to. I think your TIMELINEXCP is absolutely an epic project, and I think can't thank you enough for the work you've done on that. It's really, really amazing. And I hope it sells out. I hope people buy the remainder of the supply. I need to get on that myself. But I wanted to just throw one last thing to Nicholas. Like the artists back in the early days, we all influenced each other, and I just wanted to let you know your Sarkozy Pepe, the kind of early series 4, right? Series 4 card 3 or something.
Yeah.
That animation of the Nicolas Sarkozy, I worked on the art for Security Pepe, right? For Ollie Morris.
Yeah.
And the John McAfee, like you directly influenced the design of that Security Pepe where he pops up and pops back down. Because my mind was, yeah, when I saw your Sarkozy, my mind was blown that you could animate that and he kind of pops up behind the frame. So just wanted to throw that to you, that you were the inspiration animation on Security Pepe.
It's a great honor.
That's just gorgeous. The camaraderie between Counterparty people is just unmatched. I know Kane Mayfield talks about this, you know, the new NFT community spaces like Ethereum and Solana and that as Manhattan, but Counterparty is Albany. You know, that's the capital, and it all started there, and that's where all the innovation started, and I find that to be an interesting little symbolism there. But yeah, Everyday Earth, if I mean, any sale helps, and I know some people don't want to, you know, get physicals. They're not interested in that for the Scarcity. So I will be putting up some on Dispenser. I think I'm going to put up some for XCP and some for Pepe Cash, all at kind of the same price. And then I also put some on the Emblem Vault. So if people want to buy with Ethereum in the future, but yeah, every sale helps. And there's only about 6 days, maybe 5 or so, 5.5 days left to do that. It's going to end right at the end of the Counterparty event. And then we'll go from there. But again, I think I'm gonna close the space here, Nicholas. I might ask you again in the future to do some more interviews, because the more research I do, the more questions I have. And just want to thank you so much, and it was great to meet you as well. Absolutely incredibly fun time in Paris. You made my stay there so much fun. I was just filled with such what they might call fruits of the spirit when I was out there, because it's just like the lightning of the faces to meet people like you and NetIDX and a lot of the Europeans that were incorporated with these projects. It just filled my heart to be like, wow, this is so cool, man. And this is something that eventually I think will get more popularized or whatever. But at the time it was just to be able to meet people, and we minted NFTs, the NFT factory with the whole Fest Rares and all that. It was just fun. And you made one of the frog leg in Fest Rares. God, I thought it was beautiful. It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll end the space here, you know, and we went through a lot. But thank you guys for coming out to be a part of that. Thanks to Everyday Earth for coming on and talking about your experience. And I'm going to have one more space. I'm going to take a day break before I go to Miami, but I'm going to have a space tomorrow with Dan Anderson of Bitcorns. and we're going to talk about Bitcorns and its influence in helping on the Bulk protocol. And I'm really excited for that tomorrow, because it's just every person I interview in Counterparty, they're just so interesting. Everybody, you know, it wasn't like just one person that, you know, came in and was the king of Counterparty. No, it was just this big community effort, and like you said, everyone's influence from each other. But let me go ahead and end the space there. I thanks again, Nicolas, and really enjoyed this talk, and I hope it'll be a for people in the future to learn more.
That was great for me as well, and I stay available. Cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll see you guys later. See you tomorrow. Tune in and enjoy yourselves. This has been fun. Cheers.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Cheers.